are they that have not seen, and yet have believed. Oh, blessed are they that have not seen, and yet have believed.
I take your promises to be real. I expect them to come true, and I know in your own time they will come into view. No life from hell can never take me away from you. Jesus Christ, I believe that you have set me free.
Believing and seeing, we really must believe. Believing and seeing, blessed are they that have not seen, and yet have believed. Oh, blessed are they that have not seen, and yet have believed.
Welcome. Ooh. I'm Jean Dean, and this is Tommy Washington. We want to inspire you with our show. So come and join us. Yeah.
Blessed are they that have not seen, and yet have believed. Oh, blessed are they that have not seen, and yet have believed.
I take your promises to be real. I expect them to come true, and I know in your own time they will come into view. No life from hell can never take me away from you. Jesus Christ, I believe that you have set me free.
Believing and seeing, we really must believe. Believing and seeing, blessed are they that have not seen, and yet have believed. Oh, blessed are they that have not seen, and yet have believed. Oh, blessed are they that have not seen, and yet have believed. Oh, blessed are they that have not seen, and yet have believed. Oh, and yet have believed. Oh, and yet have believed. Oh, and yet have believed. Michelle, this next question is, the National Runaway Switchboard estimates as many as 1.6 to 2.8 million children are on the streets at any time. You know, that our society has collapsed.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, I think that's true. Of course, I have to sort of remind myself that there's a lot of good stuff going on in this world too, because I see a lot of the bad, and so my image of the world gets kind of skewed sometimes.
Yeah.
But you know, the fact that there are that many kids on the street at any one time, and that's a huge range, right?
Yes, it is.
1.6 to 2. So that means that we're not necessarily tracking this all that accurately. And in fact, a lot of kids go missing and they're never reported. They're never reported to police, and so they're not in those missing children databases that are kept. So that means that we have a segment of our population, of a very vulnerable part of our population that's really missing, that nobody knows where they are. And as a young person who finds themselves on the street, now I always talk to people about the fact that, you know, is somebody running away? Are they running from something or to something? And typically with children, they're running from something. You know, what's going on the street's got to look better than what's going on at home. And that's significant. I mean, the streets are not an easy place to be. So things have to be pretty bad at home. Either there's substance abuse in the home, there's child abuse going on, domestic violence. All of these issues overlap to cause children to try to find some other option. And traffickers know that. And so as soon as a child leaves the home and is not protected, they're looking for something better than the street. Maybe they're just looking for a meal, just to have their basic needs met. And somebody comes along, and this looks like a knight in shining armor. He's got the nice car, he's got money, he takes her out to a nice dinner, says she's beautiful. Maybe nobody's ever paid attention to her like that before. And so gradually he will build this relationship with her. But yeah, absolutely, kids who have run away from home are vulnerable to all sorts of things, and trafficking, unfortunately, is one of those things.
Okay, well, that means, you know, kids are supposed to grow up and become adults and take their position in this system that we've got here. And so if they're out on the street being trafficked sexually, then what is coming along? What's coming after us?
Yeah.
What's going to be there to take up the system reins?
Yeah.
Can you answer that? Can you tell me?
Oh gosh, if I knew the answer to that question, I think I would be, you know, in good shape, because I don't know that anybody's been able to really answer that question for sure, because there's so many factors at play here. There's a culture of media, of music, of television shows, of advertisements, that the over-sexualization of youth is one of these factors. The commodification of sex being something as seen as something that you can buy. You know, the whole idea of, you know, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, and the bachelor parties, and all these things that commodify sex, that it's okay to buy it. So I think we need to address some of those issues. You know, if we don't want our children to be sexually exploited in any type or form, we have to address child sexual abuse. For sure, we need to start talking about these issues and not sweep them under the rug. That's where it starts. It starts in the home. More services, more supportive services for families who are dealing with a slump in the economy and being unemployed for so long.
Yes.
That has a ripple effect, you know. If mom and dad are having a hard time making ends meet, then there's tension in that relationship, and there's domestic violence, and there's abuse, there may be sexual abuse. All these things sort of spiral together to create this sort of perfect storm for this child to feel like this is not my home, this is not where I belong, and I need to find something else, and so they leave, and unfortunately they're running right into a worse situation in a lot of cases. So I think it's going to take a lot of effort on our part, I think, but it really is something that we all have to come together to solve, because we all have a piece of that puzzle.
All right, partners. It says here you've got the Children and Family Services, Department of Behavioral Health, and the Superintendent of Schools. School is starting to be more aware, or is that what's happening? They're being educated?
Yes.
On how to recognize this going on with some of the students in the class. Is that
right? Yeah,
okay?
A lot of the work of C.A.S.E has been not only training law enforcement and social service providers, but going into the schools and really talking to the teachers and administrators about the fact that these kids, you know, even if they are in a trafficking situation, may be still going to school. And so we talk about specific warning signs for teachers to pay attention to. This can be children that are not able to stay awake during class. And this may be in some places treated as a behavioral issue, and maybe they're sent to the principal's office. And what we encourage is a conversation, asking this child, well, what's going on with you? What's going on outside of school that you're not able to get the sleep that you need at night? And having that conversation, being able to tune into that a little bit more. They may be children who are absent from school consistently on a Friday and a Monday. Here in the county of San Bernardino, we're not that far from Las Vegas, so it's not unreasonable to think a trafficker could pick their victim up on a Friday and go out to Las Vegas and work and come back on a Monday. So they're consistently missing school during that time. So, I think that at the very least, that the educators and people that are working in our schools can be kind of the first line of defense. They can see when a child's behavior is changing considerably. Maybe this young person who was once outgoing and had a lot of friends around her has become all of a sudden withdrawn. Maybe she's showing up to school with fancy jewelry and a new handbag and her hair and nails done. And they know that the family doesn't have a whole lot of extra resources. So these are things that we talk to educators about in terms of being able to figure these things out long before we at C.A.S.E are now having a conversation with this child in juvenile hall. We hope to get it before then.
Okay, well, you know what? We've run out of time.
Okay.
we really did. We're going to have to do this again. We're going to have to talk about this because this is something that's got so many areas of interest.
It does.
That we're going to have to do this again.
Absolutely.
So you know what?
It'd be my pleasure.
Thank you for coming, and we will see Ann Michelle the next time. And thank you for coming. Again, this is Jean Dean, and I have a wonderful Mr. Ernest Siva with me today. Thank you for coming.
My pleasure.
I am so glad to see you sitting over there. I got your talking points here, so we'll just get started and go right down the list, okay?
Okay, fine.
You would like to talk about your center's involvement in the Inland Empire.
Yes.
All right.
The center I refer to is the Dorothy Ramon Learning Center. Dorothy Ramon was our aunt, my aunt, who was the last pure speaker of the Serrano language. That's one of the languages that was spoken in the Southland, at Morongo in particular, and San Manuel reservations. And she, toward the end of her life, realized that she was the last of that period of time when the language was used. And so she did all she could, worked with a linguist for 12 years, and produced a volume of work that we have been using ever since. I think it was 2003 when she passed, and we designated and founded property downtown Banning to use as our center, and for teaching, doing programs. We have a research library that all this is in progress. We started 11 years ago now. Last year we had a 10-year wonderful year of celebration. I brought some of our work dedicated to that, on that at that time to celebrate the year. So I am the president of the nonprofit organization, and my wife just happens to be the vice president. It was our idea to bring this to fruition, and we formed the board and became incorporated in 1 year, and then we've been operating on a shoestring. But we did receive a nice grant from San Manuel Reservation. It was a naming grant. We had a garden that we could dedicate. We have a studio that's not built and we'd like to build, recording and listening and that sort of thing. The library, different things. And they decided that the hall, gathering hall, would be their interest. And so the one portion of our property downtown Banning that's finished is the hall, as a result, that gift. And we've been using it a lot for lecture series and a concert series. Once a month we do those things.
Okay, it says that you recently hosted a poetry festival. We're almost out of time.
Okay.
You said it was a huge success?
We were really pleased with it. I'll leave you a program.
Okay.
It had a number of entities, institutions that were involved in sponsoring and providing people who read their poems, wrote their poems, taught, gave workshops to families and kids. And it was just from 9 in the morning till 6 p.m. We had our celebration of that. It'll be an annual affair, so we will talk about it again in a year. The beginning of the year, I think.
You know what? We're out of time.
Okay.
But we'll have to do this again. Maybe I can bring a camera to one of your events. How about that? Would you allow me
You're
to do
welcome.
that?
Yes. The
Okay.
more the merrier.
Well, I'll talk to the people here who own the stuff, and we'll see about getting the camera out there to one of your events.
Very good.
Thank you, Mr.
Well,
Siva.
my pleasure.
We'll talk to you again.
Okay. Very good.
Good morning, Mr. Casteneda.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm doing very good, and you?
Wonderful. Sitting here with all this wonderful food.
Thank you.
Talk to me about Sizzlers. How long have you been here?
I've been here for the last 3 years, and it's been a challenge, but the results have been wonderful with it.
One of your fans.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Okay, and you've seen my show, I take it?
Yes, definitely. Inspired. It's a wonderful show, and many other interesting topics that our community should be aware of. On this side, you have all your toppings for your salads.
Yes.
But we also have chicken noodle, we have vegetable beef soup, we have the albondiga soup, and on the weekends we have menudo. And we have here at Sizzlers in San Bernardino, which is ceviche. The most popular item here in the restaurant are chicken wings. Chicken wings are the #1 seller.
Thank you, Mr. Casteneda.
Jean, I want to thank you for your time and also for the work that you do for the community. And I would like to invite other restaurants in the area to support what you're doing because it's very commendable. And I sincerely congratulate you for the work that you do. Thank you for being here.
Sometimes I lose my grip. It seems that weakness trying to sink my ship. Oh, then I see the one who ships actually sunk. Hey. Then I say, do whatever to me, Lord. Just get rid of the junk. And I go singing through the fire. I finally learned the song. You said singing through the fire. Oh, let it hurt so long. Will truly make me strong. Make me strong. Removing all things